Rais, and I want to speak to you about brand development, brand leadership. Give me one moment because this is value-based marketing. That was another teaching that I was giving before, so just give me a moment. Let me move this down because that's not the topic of our discussion. Phenomenal teaching though, phenomenal coaching, just not the one we're going to use right now. So let me get this out of the way. Listen, I have a phenomenal opportunity, guys, a phenomenal opportunity. I'm not your regular guy who went to a seminar or just read a couple of books, okay? I've got 2 master's degrees, one in leadership, one in organizational development and change. When I say leadership, evidence-based coaching for leadership development, okay? So when I say something about leadership, psychology, organizations, or branding, I know what I'm talking about. So let's go into leadership. What is leadership? Leadership is influence. Leadership is influence and the ability to influence. The ability to influence how? Hopefully it's the ability to influence positively. The ability to influence positively. So let's say you're starting a business. You want to be a speaker, coach, consultant. You want to influence people to believe in you enough for them to do what? For them to follow you. You want them to follow you. As a leader, you need influence. You want to influence them positively, and you want them to follow you. What is that based on? How are they going to follow you? How are they going to be turned from whoever they're following for the moment and be turned to following you? Value. You're going to have to add a massive amount of value. A massive amount of value because there's so many peddlers of value in the market right now. There's a lot of noise. There's like a constant hum of noise. Everybody's yelling. Everybody's screaming at the top of their lungs. Buy my stuff. Buy my stuff. Everybody's saying the same thing. And it's very little true, authentic value. Authentic value. So when you hear me speak about branding, this is the difference. This is the difference. When you begin to brand yourself, you begin to do 2 things. If you brand correctly, you begin to push your unideal client away from you because your messaging isn't going to match their need or their desire. And you're going to pull or attract your ideal client to you because your messaging is so clear that they hear it and they understand it. Eric Thomas says, "My sheep will hear my voice." He's speaking to his ideal client. If there's miscongruence, if there's no congruence in your value and your message, you're going to confuse people and your influence is going to suffer as a result. And people are not going to follow you. You want people to follow you. So how do we get people to follow us? Let me go back. How do we get people to follow us and how do we become influential? I want to teach you something. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time with you today because I know most of my videos are usually 2 minutes, 5 minutes at the most. So right now I'm going to spend a little bit of time with you. How do we influence people and get them to follow us? Number 1, and this is why I'm tying leadership to branding. The first thing that you want to do is be self-aware. Now they say that self-awareness is the first component to effective leadership. I want to show you why and how it ties into branding. For branding, you want to have Clarity. Clarity. How can you have clarity if you're not self-aware? It's not possible. You'll be misleading people. You'll constantly be changing your messaging to match your feeling or emotion at the moment. You won't be consistent. So when you have brand clarity, that is based on your self-awareness, knowing who you are. When you know who you are, you know who you want to serve, who you feel most comfortable around. So I work with leaders in high positions, whether that's a CEO of a Fortune 500 or a startup, they're a leader within their organization or their department. Very rarely do I find myself around people who are on the entry level. Very rarely. I train the staff development and they train the staff. I come in and I coach the managers and the leaders and they turn around and they train the staff. That's just not my ideal client. It's not my ideal audience. Who is your ideal audience? You won't know that unless you're self-aware and you really work and you really dig deep into who you are and discover things about yourself that you might not know right now. You unearth deep details about yourself that a lot of people just cover over while they're trying to run after the money, trying to get fast money. But all money isn't green. All money isn't green and every dollar isn't good. So I don't want you to get money under false pretenses because fast money isn't last money. And I want your money to last, or I want it to be sustainable. How is that going to happen? 2 words. Authentic. It has to be authentic. You have to be authentic. Here we go with the leadership again. The leaders speak again. Your brand clarity, your branding has to be authentic. It has to really be you. Or you know what? You're going to get tired of serving your clients. You're going to get tired of seeing the same people day in, day out. This is what happens when people go to jobs that they were not fit for. They just applied. And they took the interview like a role, like they were role playing, and they were saying, yes, I'll do this, and yes, I would be so pleased to accept the position of X. But when you come down to it, they hate their job. And that's probably 85% of the population. Why? Because they are not self-aware, because they lack brand clarity. So they're not authentic, so they don't enjoy their days. So as a leader, coach, consultant, speaker, entrepreneur, CEO, if you don't have this self-awareness and you don't have this brand clarity, you're not going to have authenticity and it's going to be felt. It's going to vibrate off of you. It's going to emanate off of you. When you get on calls with people you'd rather not be on calls with. When you get in front of people that you'd rather not be in front of, when you have to speak to the same people and deal with the same people just because they paid you. You want your brand to be authentic. You want to be a leader in your space. So remember what I told you a moment ago. The right brand pushes the wrong people away from you, and it pulls the right people in. The right messaging will attract the right people because you're sending one message to specific people who understand or hear your voice. You're speaking their pain to them because you know it. Why? Because you can identify with it and identify to it. So they can identify with and gravitate to you and your brand. Because you have one message, you stand for one thing because you have clarity. and you are authentic in your space, all of that comes from having self-awareness, knowing who you are, knowing who you want to serve, knowing why you do it, knowing who you do it for, knowing where you came from and where you're going, having a vision, a clear-cut vision for your organization, for your business, and having a purpose that is tied to values. This is how you find your ideal client, because you have something in common. If you don't know what you have to give, then your messaging is going to be all over the place and no one's really going to know who you are or what you do, which means they're not going to trust you. Not with a dollar nor an hour. So a lot of people are struggling and they're just posting and they're just sending out messages. But their messages are falling on deaf ears, even though it's a crowded market space. No one relates to you because you're not authentic. You don't have clarity. You don't really have a brand or really know what a brand is. And that's only because you're not self-aware. So what leadership development does is it helps you become self-aware. It helps you peel the layers back. It gives you the raw material, the raw essence, the character. What we call the MVPs. The MVPs, the morals, the values, and the principles. Once you have your core, morals, values, and principles, then you can say, okay, this is who I am. Once you can authentically state who you are, then you can authentically say, well, it's only right or it's only obvious that I would want to speak to these people. These are my favorite people. It won't feel like work. When you begin to wrap your message around that understanding, when you begin to clothe that body of understanding, you begin to develop brand clarity. I hope this makes sense. I hope this makes sense because listen, guys, when I chose to not try to run out there and just achieve, when I went inside and investigated who I was, what did I really stand for? What had I been through? What had I learned? What had I learned? What had I earned? When I really got to know myself, when I got to discover myself, when I became more self-aware, that's when I put on the tie. That's my values. My values are all over the place, but they're in here. They're on me. When I say they're all over the place, they're all over my brand. It says one thing: leadership. Leadership. Deep centered values, morals, principles. So it pulls people who can relate to that, people who can identify with that, the CEOs, the high-level leaders, the entrepreneurs who play full out. That's who I attract. It's not by mistake. You're not going to become a millionaire by mistake. It has to be on purpose. And your branding has to be on purpose. So listen, the reason why I'm giving you this is because I've got 2 slots open. Just 2 slots open. 1 or maybe 2 slots open. So the only question is, which one are you? I would love to, in the next 2 months, in the next 8 weeks, work with you to develop self-awareness, brand clarity, authenticity of messaging, authenticity and development of your brand through self-awareness and leadership development. I would love to help you transform your attempt at a business to a well-valued, well-established, well-oiled machine of a brand. and we can do this together. But this is only for high level players. If you're in the entry level, then this is not for you. My number is going to be on the side of this call. You can schedule a call with me on the link that you see. If this is not for you, be honest with yourself. Be self-aware enough to know that this offer is not for you. This offer is for high-level players. This offer is for people who have been in business for a little bit of time and they're trying to clarify their messaging. They're genuinely trying to go to the next level. If this is you, then I want you to schedule a call with me so we can work together on your leadership development and your brand clarity.